In Judaism, we differentiate between grieving and mourning. We all grieve over the loss of a loved one, but it is the immediate family that have the traditional responsibility of mourning. So before we begin our service, I ask those family members who have a ribbon to please rise. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, binot deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yanachaleni, nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'ma'aglei tzedek lema'an shemo, gam ki elech beget tzalmavet, lo irara ki ata imadi, shiftecha umishantecha hema yanachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorarai, tishanta vashemen roshi kosi rivaya, ach tov v'chesed yir defuni kol yemei chayai, v'shafti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. In our booklets, we turn to page 7 and read in English the words of Psalm 23 at the top of the page. We read together on page 7. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall ever follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I'm told if you call the Katz home and someone doesn't pick up, the answering machine says, "You have reached the happy home of David, Deena, Serena, Skylar, and Lulu." The family apparently has been concerned that there might be fish on the way and that this message might get longer. But it's the happy home that struck me. The more I learn about Deena, the more it is clear to me that to her family and many friends, that's what she was, a happy home. When she was around, people were grounded, were centered around joy. Whether the occasion was sad, happy, in between, boring, she brought her smile. She brought laughter that was not anxious or nervous or awkward. She brought laughter that came from true joy. Laughter that was warmth. Laughter that was shared with everyone. I'm told that doctors and nurses that cared for her these past years would come in and hug her. That she would check after them before being willing to be checked on how she was doing. That even in this clinical, emotional state with doctors and nurses, she found the joy, the warmth, and shared it. Today, our world is a little more adrift. Without her foundation, without the warmth she provided, without the sight of her smile, without the sound of her laughter. We're going to hear now from some of Deena's family. First, her siblings, Gary Garner and Mitzi Fierro.
First, I'd like to start off by saying my sister's last words to me. When I walked into her room the other day, and there was a few close friends there, she looked up and she looked at me, and she said, "Wow, so many people." That was her last words. And wow, so many people. This is wonderful. This is beautiful. So many friends, so many families. I don't think I even need my glasses right now. I'm doing pretty good. Let me start off. I want to thank everyone who is here today with us today. I know some had traveled a long distance to be here. Many of you took off work and other personal things, and I appreciate that. I thank you all. I would like to say a few words about Deena and her beautiful life that she lived. Deena was more than a sister to me. She was my best friend and a true hero. My sister enjoyed life to the fullest. It was the little things that brought such joy and happiness. When my sister was happy, which was most of the time when we were all around her, her smile and laugh would light up the world. She had a very unique ability to make everyone around her more loving, more caring, and more patient. Deena married a loving man, a wonderful man, amazing man. David, I don't think Deena could have found anybody any better. You're sensitive, you're loving, and you've given her so much. And I love you for that. And I'll always love you for that. My sister leaves behind two beautiful children, Serena and Skylar. They were her pride and joys. Nothing came first. And she showed it and felt it. I love you both. Deena also loved her friends and family. And no matter how hard things got with life, she was always positive and optimistic. Deena was the type of person who was always there when someone needed her, as we all know. It's really hard to imagine life without Deena. She touched so many people's lives, and she'll be missed dearly by everyone she knew. Deena, you were the best sister anyone could ever ask for. I'll miss you forever and ever and ever. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, Deena made me promise that there would be no tears. Okay, she doesn't want tears, so I'm going to share with you some stories about your beautiful mother and your beautiful wife from when she was little. Because you know that big smile you saw? She has always had that. When she was a little girl, she'd come down the street and all you'd see these teeth, these big teeth. And she had this tricycle. And she rode this tricycle everywhere. And she was younger than Gary and I, obviously. And you know, she would always chase us. And my mom would cut her hair short. She hated the short hair. But then to add insult to injury, my mom would do this ponytail like this, right? With her little short hair. And she'd ride this squeaky tricycle. You could hear it all the way down the block. And she wouldn't just ride the tricycle. She would be with this ponytail and these big, big, big teeth. And she used to laugh and giggle, and she brought such joy to our lives. And the other morning, in fact, I was with her, and she was crying, and she looked at me, and she got angry, and she goes, "Don't you cry. Don't you dare cry for me." So Deena, I know, would want us to celebrate her life. And I think back, I've spent the last many hours thinking back about Deena, and being a sister is not always easy, sometimes very easy. And Deena was the greatest sister. In fact, another story, we went through a period of time where we didn't talk. And then one day I called her up and I said, hey, I really need to talk to you. I need your opinion. She goes, are you kidding? We're not talking. And I go, yes. I go, but you're the one I trust. I need to talk to you. And she spent hours on the phone with me. And I go, okay. So I go, okay, are we good? And she goes, yeah, we won't talk anymore for a while. And then maybe, a few weeks later, she calls me and she goes, I need your opinion. And I go, but I thought we weren't talking. And she goes, yeah, but I need your opinion. And I go, okay. And then we would talk for a very long time again. And my parents would say, sisters have to talk. And I'm like, don't worry, we're talking. No, you're not talking. Don't worry, Mom, we're talking. Dad, we're talking. And then, a few weeks would go by and again, Dee, I need to talk to you about something. And the wonderful thing about Deena is we were so opposite. And I was always kind of dark and stormy, and Deena was everybody's light, and she was my light. And when my life would get hard, I would call her just to hear her voice. Because no matter how hard things were, if I just heard something from her, it would get better. And I know she was that for everybody. And I hope that we can all take away from a little bit of Deena from our lives to look that no matter how hard things are, there's always room to be happy, because that's what Deena was. She always made room to be happy. I found a couple of things. One of my friends sent me something that is just so perfect for Deena. It said, in one of the stars I shall be living, in one of them I shall be laughing. And so it will be as if all the stars were laughing when you look at the sky at night. And that was Deena. In fact, my brother and I sometimes used to pinch her. It's like she'd laugh at the most inappropriate time and we'd be going, don't laugh, stop it. And she, just like, leave me alone, I need to laugh. So I could go on for hours because she was the best sister. You couldn't have a better sister, a better person in your life. And finally I wrote something for my sister, my favorite sister, my only sister, but she was still my favorite. We shared laughter, we shared tears. Love's lost, love's found. Through everything, we have stayed together, from heartbreaks to soulmates, from life's hardships to life's happiness, our stupid fights, and we had some very silly nights. Deena and I used to share a room together when we were really little, and we were silly. We were definitely silly. We've been there and done it. We've seen life end and begin, and the joy I've felt throughout our lives that you are my sister can never never be replaced now that you are gone. We now won't share each other's time and thoughts, but you will still be with me every day and night. No matter where you are, you will always be my favorite sister. Oh, and by the way, we shared reading glasses too. These are Deena's. So I'm going to ask you all into joining our family in celebrating the life of Deena Sue, because she truly was the most magnificent sister, wife, mother, daughter, friend, cousin. I mean, Deena was everything. So please, I know she would be upset for us shedding tears, because that's not what she'd want. She would truly want us to celebrate her life. No, thanks for all coming.
Deena's nephew, Garner, on behalf of Deena's father, Lester Garner.
Hello, everybody. Deena has been a shining star to Sylvia and me since she was a very young child to a grown woman. A wonderful, loving wife and mother, and a true friend to so many. I've had many of her friends come to me and tell me what a fabulous person and friend she has been. I want to thank everybody who gave Deena so much love and support through her 3 years of treatment, especially David, who has been by her side, loving and caring for her, always supporting anything Deena wanted. They were always so happy together. I've watched her and David raise 2 beautiful children, Serena and Skylar, and now she will watch them grow from heaven above. I will miss my beautiful little girl's smile that always made me so happy all of these years. Her phone calls every day to her mother and me. My darling Deena, rest in peace forever. Love you, Mom and Dad. Thank you.
Deena's husband, David.
When I came yesterday, actually 2 days ago, to make arrangements here, I used the phrase that I saw in a movie, if you remember from Jaws, when they're in the back of the boat and they see the shark and they go, "We're going to need a bigger boat." And I go, "You're going to need a bigger chapel." In the Jewish tradition, when someone passes away, you have to bury them before the Sabbath. My father passed away 10 years ago, right before Yom Kippur. We had 1 day, and we had about as many people as we have here. Deena passed away yesterday. We did the best we could to notify everybody, and there's standing room only. It doesn't surprise me a bit, because Deena had more friends than anybody I've ever met. She was unbelievable at reaching out to people and staying in touch. And I always was jealous at how many people she was friends with still from high school. I wasn't friends with anybody from high school. She had 30 or 40 friends that she regularly stayed in touch with. It was hard to keep track of her best friend. 2 things that I learned, among others, this last 3 years were 2 things I continually reminded Deena. And the first one was to take a deep breath. So can everybody take a deep breath with me? And the other thing I told her to do repeatedly was to show me that smile. So will everybody please show me a smile? She did that right up until Friday or Saturday when I told her to do it. To my beloved wife, Deena, you are my heart, my life, and my soulmate. Your favorite phrase was live, love, and laugh. Everyone sitting here today knows how Deena was full of life. Her beautiful spirit, her huge smile, and her zest for living life to the fullest. She survived cancer at the tender age of 29, only to be hit again 3 years ago this very month. Sorry, I'm going to have a Marco Rubio moment. I'm not running for president, though. She discovered it on a trip to Las Vegas. We had gone there to celebrate our 10th wedding anniversary and to renew our vows, some of the pictures of which you saw in the beautiful video that my sister-in-law, Lauren, worked for hours and hours last night to put together. We went with our close friends, the Bears, and I can easily say it was the best weekend of our marriage. We had an absolutely wonderful time, and Sunday morning, as we awoke, Deena told me she felt something on her chest. Weeks later, I asked myself, how did we go from having one of the best days of our lives only to be followed the next day by the worst? To say that we felt like we were being tested was an understatement. Deena and I met by accident 15 years ago. I was getting ready for a spinning class at the gym, and even though the entire room was empty, Deena came in and sat on the bike next to me. Of course, I later found out she was there on a 2-week pass looking for a husband. 2-week free pass. She was thrifty. It was a good investment, actually. The room was mirrored all the way around, and so it was easy for me to stare at Deena without looking over. She was wearing a gray leotard and black tights. She was always amazed when I told the story that I remembered that. She struck up a conversation with me about the spinning instructor, my soon-to-be ex-wife. Shortly after the class, I followed Deena outside, and we talked for 10 minutes. In that 10 minutes, I felt like I learned her life story. She said she was going through a divorce with a 9-month-old child and had moved back with her parents. And while she spoke, she continued to flash that magical smile that defined her. I knew at that moment she was special. Here I was, going through a divorce, no kids, I had a house, and I was still trying to work on my marriage. And I was a basket case. So I didn't ask her for her phone number. Shortly thereafter, my wife and I called it quits for good, and the one person that I had on my mind was Deena. I came back to the same class for weeks, sitting in front of my ex-wife, but no Deena. Apparently, she was on the last day of the 2-week pass. I relayed the story to my best friend John that I was trying to find her, but to no avail. And as you all know, I'm a reserve deputy, so there are ways to find you. But I couldn't find her. 2 months later, John and I went to Sagebrush Cantina in Calabasas, and I bumped into a college friend of mine named Tracy. As we were talking to Tracy at one table, John was distracted and staring at a woman at the next table. That was not unusual for John. Later, John and I went to sit on the patio a couple of 100 yards away, and John noticed Tracy talking to a beautiful woman at the other end of the patio. He looked over at me and said, "Tell your friend I want to meet her friend. She's really cute." So I told Tracy. She went over and got her, brought her over. Here comes this gorgeous woman with this 1-year-old child on her shoulder sleeping. Yeah, she was a real guy magnet. After exchanging some pleasantries, I realized it was Deena from the spinning class. I leaned over to my friend and I said, "That's her, and you're not getting her." Deena and I had our first date the following Wednesday at Nicola's. There were only 2 tables filled in the room, ours and another table with 2 older women at the other end of the restaurant. After a 2-hour dinner, the women approached us and said, "How long have you guys been together? You look so much in love." I laughed, looked at my watch, and said, "About 2 hours now." That night, a night of laughter, a night of love, a night of sharing, continued for 5,475 consecutive days and nights, or, put another way, 15 years of our lives together. Deena approached her battle against this insidious disease with unbelievable courage, strength, and fortitude. The doctors, nurses, technicians, and even the receptionists all fell in love with her and were in her corner doing the best they could to help her out in their own way. On behalf of my entire family, I'll be forever grateful to all of them. Managing the stress and anxiety and uncertainty over the last few years was a monumental task. I'm sure that some of you may have felt like you were being buffered or rebuked in your attempts to reach out to us, since I realize I maintained a protective wall around Deena. It was protection that she wanted, and she didn't want people to feel sorry for her or give her special attention. She was particularly careful when protecting our children. I know it made many of you confused or possibly upset, but I hope and trust you understand. We all handle situations differently, and I chose to respect her wishes. Many of you came to say your goodbyes over the past couple of days, and I have to say I didn't really understand that. but I do now. Deena had specifically told me during each hospital stay she didn't want any visitors, and made me promise to respect her privacy even if I didn't agree. She definitely didn't want visitors this time around, but so many of you wanted to express your love personally that I decided it was an appropriate time to open up the protective wall. I hope it brought healing to you, and the love you brought to Deena and me was a mitzvah. Considering her diagnosis, surviving 3 years was a win. Most of those 3 years was filled with wonderful opportunities for her and I to share a significant amount of time together and with our children as we went through this journey hand in hand in unison every step of the way. I told her I would always be there and I wasn't going anywhere no matter how tough it got or no matter how many times she tried to push me away. Having said that, I have been grieving every day of the past 3 years. A day did not pass that I didn't wake up in the middle of the night obsessing about some comment a doctor made in passing, or a nurse said, or an article I read, or some fear I had about eventually losing the love of my life. I reminded her frequently that she would have to make it because she had to grow old with me so she could change my diapers someday. Looking out at all of you reminds me how special Deena was and will always be. She touched so many people. I have never seen someone with so many friends from all the way back to high school that she kept in touch with all these years. She was an amazing mother to Serena and Skylar, was a loving, caring wife to me, a wonderful sister to Gary and Mitzi, and an amazing daughter to Les and Sylvia. How we will all fill such a huge void, I don't know. I was blessed to have Deena for 15 years, and I wouldn't trade that time for anything. Regrets? I have only one, losing her. We really worked hard to build a strong family with our children, to educate them, to teach them how to be good people and how to love others. I will work 200% to continue that as Deena's legacy. We traveled, we enjoyed our cabin, we loved to entertain at our home, and we never let a weekend go by without having a date. All of our lives will forever be different from this loss. Few of us will ever touch people like my Deena. Her smile could light up a room, and dare I say, I don't know if she ever took a bad picture. She may have thought she did. And she never aged while I was with her. I later found out why, as I looked at the credit card bill. As I told her over the years, she got more beautiful, more sexy, and I loved her more every day that went by. I can truly say our marriage was the best that it had ever been, notwithstanding Deena's condition. We used it as an opportunity to live a lifetime in 3 years. We did everything we wanted to do. We spent so much time together as a family. We laughed, we loved, we spent time with friends. I know she's in heaven with my dad doing good work already. She just changed positions. Here she was an angel on earth, and now she's an angel looking over us. A couple of lessons that I learned over the last 3 years that were important to Deena and I want to share with you. Because if it helps only one person or a couple, then I'll know that Deena's spirit will live on. One is to remember to really nurture your marriage. It is so easy to settle into a rut, caring for the kids, working a career, taking care of others, and becoming resentful and angry. But at the end of the day, if you don't nurture your marriage regularly, it will not only be unfulfilling, it will fail. Really show your spouse you care and why you fell in love with them. Every once in a while, take a step back from life and ask yourself, can I be a better spouse? Can I be a better parent or friend? And then make a commitment to be exactly that. Stop and enjoy life. It's something that Deena really taught me. Don't put off everything for tomorrow. Do some of those things today and throw caution into the wind. There are no guarantees. In closing, I want to relay a story to you that happened 10 years ago. After my dad passed away, within, I think, about a year, my 40th birthday came around. A few years before my 40th birthday, my dad was turning 70, and we did a surprise party at our home. And we had a caterer that my parents knew cater the party, and he's actually here today. And so my parents knew all of the staff on the catering company, and we sent them off on a wild goose chase in a limousine so that we could set up the party and have a surprise. The limo approached the house. We're all ready, hundreds of people waiting. And right as the limo comes into the driveway, out walks one of Murray Cohen's waitresses right across the front of the house. And we're looking through the window, seeing this waitress in her uniform walking across as the limo pulls in the driveway. And I found out later, my father told my mother, "Well, I guess we're not going out for dinner." He knew, so the surprise was, not ruined, but a little bit less of a surprise. I'm not a huge believer in the afterlife and those kinds of things. I do believe that there is something out there that knows everything we're doing and we're going to do. When my dad passed away and my 40th birthday came around, Deena hired a caterer, a different caterer. Didn't want to screw it up twice. And she sent my brother and I to go play poker that day. My brother was, I don't know if I was driving or my brother was driving. We headed back to the house, and we were going to get together with my sister-in-law and Deena and go out for dinner. And as we're driving in the driveway, out walks a waitress from the same gate, walks across the front of the house. I turn to my brother and I go, "I guess we're not going out for dinner." I walk in the house. Everybody yells surprise, and Deena walks out, and she's got tears in her eyes. She says, "I'm so sorry, the surprise was ruined." I put my arms around her, and I said, "The surprise wasn't ruined. It's the only way my dad knew to let me know he's here." Well, my 50th birthday is coming up in July, so Deena better find a way to let me know she's there, because it only makes sense. And if anybody could do it, she can. I love you, Dee, and I'll miss you forever.
Jewish tradition teaches us that the soul is eternal. What's more, the rules, the obligations, the responsibilities of mourning all have to do with the ways in which the community should come together. All of them require friends and family to come together for support. And it seems to me that Deena understood this, particularly towards the end. I'm told that when she could no longer speak to ask how everyone was doing, in the hospital room she would point at people and start going like this, because she wanted them to talk and share. Especially for Skylar and Serena, we now have a responsibility. While Deena is no longer physically here, it's everyone here's job to make sure the relationship keeps going, keeps growing. And you do that by sharing your stories. Each of you holds a piece of Deena, a memory, a story, a lesson, a value. I encourage you today, write them down. Put it on paper. Record your voice. Whatever your choice is, but make sure you share them so that Deena's family and Deena's loved ones can keep learning about their mother, their wife, their sister-in-law, their friend, their aunt. Deena had a lot of titles. By coming today, we make a commitment to make sure it is not just Deena's soul that lives on in the afterlife, but it is Deena's personality, Deena's values, and Deena's smile that lives on by continuing to share stories. I ask you now to please rise as I chant the El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamtze Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, B'ma'alo Kedoshim, Utohorim Kezohar Haraki HaMazhirim, Et Nishmat Deena Bat Yitzchak Lev Vesura Pesha Shehalcha Le'olama, Began Eden Tehei Menuchata. Lechen Bal Harachamim Yastira Beseter Kanfav Le'olamim V'yitzror B'yitzror HaChaim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach B'shalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen. We read together in our booklets on page 17 the English. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of your divine presence, among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto Deena Katz, who has gone to her eternal home, author of mercy, bring her under the shelter of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May you be her inheritance, and may her repose be in peace. Amen. You may be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, services will continue and be concluded at the interment site, and the following persons have been asked to serve as the casket bearers: Mr. Gary Garner, Mr. Bill Fierro, Mr. Norm Katz, Mr. Barry Katz, Mr. Jason Katz, Mr. Garrett Garner, and Mr. Alec Garner. And gentlemen, I'll ask you to come forward in just a few moments. Immediately following services at the interment site, friends are invited to join the family at the Katz residence. The address is 18439 St. Moritz Drive in Tarzana. Maps were available, or driving instructions were available as you entered the chapel. If you did not receive one, we will have a few copies available at the graveside. Just approach one of the Mount Sinai staff. In just a moment, we're going to be leaving the chapel and going to the graveside. We'll be leaving through the doors here to your right. The casket will be taken from the chapel first, followed by the immediate family. Then the congregation will please follow in behind. It is a short distance to the graveside. We will therefore be walking. If there are those here for whom even this short walk might be difficult, please feel free to return to your cars. Wait until the walking congregation has passed by, then follow in behind to the graveside. Will the congregation please rise, and will the casket bearers please come forward?